I am the greatest.
I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd kick your ass.
You won't do shit. Just stick and move. And waking you up and saying, now stick and move. Keep your hands up.
Welcome to a new episode of the Stick and Move podcast. I'm your host, Trey, and today I'm doing a tier list of the greatest welterweights of all time. I specifically hand chose 15 of the best welterweights that I'm very familiar with, that I grew up with, and a couple of throwbacks to back in the day legends as well. So, who made the cut on the top welterweights of all time? Well, I have Terence Crawford, Errol Spence, Floyd Mayweather, Manny Pacquiao, Shane Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, Pernell, Whitaker, Tito, Trinidad, Miguel, Cotto, Sugar Ray Leonard, Tommy the Hitman Hearns, Pipino, Cuevas, Wilfred, Benitez, Duran, and Sugar Ray Robinson. So, what we're going to go ahead and do, so I did a tier list for my old partner, Sam, a few months back on the top heavyweights of all time. Y'all can check that out on the link below. And we had a little bit of controversy. So our tiers were S for like super science level, right? Then there was A, and then we had B, C, D, and F. And people were like a little like judgmental on our grading, that we should have had a little bit of a A minus, B minus, C minus, because it was just the grade levels that we had for that heavyweight tier were just too general, and we were putting boxers in the same grade level when one was particularly a little bit more better. So what I went ahead and did is, for this tier list, I added a super level, A, and then A minus, B, B minus, C, C minus, D, and F. But looking at these 15 legends here, I cannot see any of them being a F in my opinion. So right off the bat, so maybe I should just delete that category. But so let's go ahead and go with Terence Crawford. Now, look, I'm going to go right off the bat, and I'm going to give Terence Crawford a solid B. And no, this is not clickbait, guys. I have Terence Crawford at B, and let's just be honest. If you look at his record, okay, you can honestly say, and I've had episodes, we had an entire episode on the most overrated boxers of all time. And for Terence Crawford, look, spectacular record, undefeated. He is a 36-year-old man, only fights once a year for some strange reason. That is a knock I have against him. Two, the first 30 to 33, 35% of his fights, if you look at his record, he is literally fighting tomato cans to the highest degree. Mostly boxers with losing records. People have criticized legends like Julio Cesar Chavez for fighting guys with that were plumbers or whatever, even though that's not true. And Crawford is getting the benefit of the doubt that he was fighting these great legends later on. And look, I'm not going to deny the fact that he's credited as two-time undisputed champ. No doubt about it. Look, he is very impressive. He has multiple world championship titles in 3 different weight classes, all the way from lightweight to welterweight. But on his path to greatness early on in his career, I just needed a little bit more. So I have to put him on B tier, just based on, one, his inactivity, and the first 33% of his career fighting nothing but duds. I know what most people are going to say. What about his battle with Errol Spence? Well, look, Errol Spence is on the next guy up. And I'm going to put Errol Spence at C level. Now, I'll be honest with you. When we first started this podcast, this was during the hype of Terence Crawford. It was like the week before Terence Crawford fights Errol Spence. And I predicted that Errol Spence was going to win. He's a Texas native. I'm from Texas. I was actually teaching in Oak Cliff, where he's from. Well, he was from DeSoto, but very neighbor cities with DeSoto. But I've heard of all the legends of Errol Spence throughout his early on career, pre-accident when I was teaching in Dallas. And look, I would love to put him at the same level as Terence Crawford, but at the same time, I just need a little bit more. Yes, did he unify the welterweight division? Yes, at 154, absolutely he did. But look, some things that I've been that shellacking that he took from Bud Crawford. I don't know if it was a trainer thing with him not being able to defend himself against Terence Crawford in that fight. He just came in with the wrong game plan completely. But oh man, ever since that accident that he had, 28 wins and one loss, he was just a different fighter. I've been saying this even before I even started this podcast, that it seems like he has a blind spot on that right side. And he was getting caught by likes of Danny Garcia and Ugas. They kept on catching him. And I was thinking, like, you know what? Somebody's gonna end up exposing that. Now, I picked the wrong fight in Terence Crawford. Terence Crawford totally obliterated him, but I think it was a torn up to pieces Errol Spence. I think if this was a before accident Errol Spence, absolutely. I think Errol Spence would have had at least a better fight. I'm not saying that he would have won the fight, but I think it would have been a little bit better. I mean, this is a guy in the welterweight division at 154. He was one of the faces of boxing at the time. So I'm gonna put him at a C. Go ahead and go ahead and leave a comment if you guys agree or disagree with my Terence Crawford. Try to reason with me why Terence Crawford should be higher than a B, because I know that's a hot start. And I'll be honest with you. I'm not putting him at a B for a hot take, guy. This is what I honestly believe. I need the activity. He made us wait 5 years. I know it could go. You could blame it on Errol Spence as well, but it should have happened a lot sooner. Could have been a different fight. The accident delayed things. Yes, I know, and of course promoters and all these unification belts. And I don't know. It's very technical, very political. I agree. So I'll leave it at Earl Spence as a C. Next, Floyd Money Mayweather. Look, I'll be the first one to admit, when he was coming up, I watched to see him lose. I thought he lost to Luis Castillo. I thought he lost to De La Hoya, which I'm gonna do an episode on that very soon. So stay tuned for that. Um, despite that, despite that, I have no choice but to put him, no, not B, that's a little drag, at the S tier. He is super. He is sensational. He is supercilious. He is phenomenal. Let's take the S out. Uh, he changed the game for better, for worse. I mean, it's because of him why boxers can't lose anymore. It's because of him why if a boxer hit the mat one time in his career, he's not considered great. Look at what happened to Inoue. People are comparing Inoue to Tank Davis. They want the Tank Davis fight. A lot of people are saying that Inoue would destroy Tank Davis. And then what's the first thing on the comments on social media? Well, Tank Davis never hit the mat. Inoue just hit the mat against Neri from Mexico. His last fight 2 weeks ago. So Floyd Mayweather was such an exceptional boxer that he created a new level of exemptness, where to the point where if you're not picture perfect, you are not considered all-time great. He, in a weird way, sometimes a lot of people believe he ruined boxing. You know what I'm saying? That he ruined boxing because nobody wants to fight each other anymore, because they don't want to risk their O or their zero. There's boxers that try to avoid fighting counter punchers or heavy hitter thumpers because they don't want to hit the mat for the first time. Yeah, I remember when Ryan Garcia hit the mat the first time. Oh man, I forgot against who, but people were saying that was one of the first questions they asked him. How did it feel to hit the mat the first time? Like, who cares? I grew up watching all these great boxers in the 80s and 90s and 2000s, and going on the mat, it wasn't even a conversation. If a boxer lost, we didn't care that they lost their undefeated streak. That wasn't even a part of the conversation. Floyd Mayweather changed that. He brought the boxing purses to another level. He's one of those transcendent figures. Very few of them come around. Michael Jordan did for basketball, where he elevated not only the game but the pay level. De La Hoya comes in, Mike Tyson. They do the same thing. We'll talk about De La Hoya in a minute. They did the same thing. 50 and 0. The only ding I would have on him is that he was never unified. He was never unified, if I'm not mistaken. He was never a lineal champion. He was always moving. He didn't really need that competition. So uh Floyd Mayweather S tier all day long. I know, controversial. He waited out Pacquiao, which we're going to talk about in a second, for 7 years, through everything from he was on steroids, which was never proven, but that's now speculation and it's BS in my opinion. But that's what we got right here. So now, Manny Pacquiao. Look, the resume says everything all day long. Manny Pacquiao. Yes, did he lose to Floyd Mayweather? Absolutely. So he should be technically A tier, but I have him S tier. Look, this is a guy, 8 division world champion. He never dodged anybody. You guys realize that he was in a two-time trilogy at the same time with Morales and Barrera going on at the same time, when those two dudes in the featherweight, lightweight division were destroying the competition. This was a guy who said no to any big fight. He took on every single legend. He retired people. He retired legends like De La Hoya. He retired pretty much Hatton. Pretty much obliterated Cotto. He obliterated all these legends. And despite him losing to Floyd Mayweather, which when they fought, yeah, it was 7 years later, it was a little bit of a dud. I think it was a little bit of a closer fight than most people think, to be honest with you, in my honest opinion. Look, his accolades say the same. He changed the game. He brought respect to Asian boxing, which was always respectable to begin with. But he was just prolific in his tenure of the 2000s and the 2010s. And to be honest, he was more of a lightweight, featherweight giant when he got to the welterweight division. In the beginning, he was chopping heads, beating the boogeyman like Margarito, all these guys, breaking his eye socket. And eventually, his power wouldn't be the same in that division. But besides that, his accolades say everything. S tier all day long. Now, look, here's the interesting one: Sugar Shane Mosley. I'm going to put Sugar Shane Mosley also at C tier along with Errol Spence. Look, I understand that the accolades are there. I mean, he had multiple world championship titles in 3 different weight classes. He was IBF lightweight title, WBA, WBC. I mean, he was, if I'm not mistaken, the fighter of the year in 1998. And look, he also got busted for steroids, like full on steroids, according to Victor Conte. He even taught him how to take the shots and near the belly button and stuff like that. He's had a sad life when it comes to out of the ring with his ex-wife and corruption and all that stuff. But when it came to him as a boxer, look, I just feel that when it came to, there was a time where I thought he was unbeatable. He fights De La Hoya, and I thought De La Hoya got robbed both times, in my humble, honest opinion. Mosley, he was a great boxer for that era, but later on, as he was starting to get aged out, fighting a young buck, Canelo, who Canelo would end up destroying, battering his ribs. I mean, he had a good long career, but once he hit that threshold of being taken out by Vernon Forrest both of those times, I mean, it just goes to show you that Sugar Shane Mosley, he had a great career, but after being destroyed by Vernon Forrest both those times, it was just a different fight, and his career was never really the same. So I have to have him at C tier. Okay. So next, Oscar De La Hoya. Look, the accolades are there. I mean, this is a guy. If look, I'm gonna have to put De La Hoya. Was he as great? He lost. I mean, I think he beat Floyd Mayweather. To be honest with you, Pacquiao retired him, but what he did for boxing, I'm gonna have to also put him at S tier. You know what? I'm sorry. A tier. Oh man, that might even be a little too high, but I'm gonna leave him at A tier. I'm changing my mind. I'm doing an audible, so go ahead and chop my head off in the comments for changing it. But look, my argument for him being an A to S tier, he's like fringe in my opinion, is because he was what he was, the golden boy. He was an 11 world title champion in 6 different weight classes. That is a record that's probably not going to be broken for a very long time. Look for De La Hoya. He has 11 world titles in 6 different weight classes. I mean, unheard of, unbelievable boxer. Probably has one of the greatest. I just did a build the perfect boxer episode a few weeks ago. And I didn't know. I kind of considered putting him the greatest jab of all time. And look, as a guy who was a critic of De La Hoya my entire life until about February, I would say, when I actually reviewed an episode or his fight with Trinidad, he was a gorgeous, gorgeous, fundamentally sound, jab perfect boxer. No diddy. Um, and he brought the views. He was polarizing. Look, guys, I am Mexican descent. I come from a Mexican border town on the bottom tip of Texas. Believe me, he was a polarizing figure within the Mexican community, not just the American side or global side. He was a global hero for a bunch of Latino boxers, even Asian. But even Pacquiao said that De La Hoya was his hero growing up. For me, I bring this up because as a Mexican American, if you're a Mexican, you hated De La Hoya. Why? Because he bashed in the legend of all legends twice in Julio Cesar Chavez. That was a big no-no, but he did it. He fought everybody. Man, I'm kind of thinking that maybe he should be S tier. But no, I'll keep him A tier because look, he was known for fading out in those championship rounds, the 9th, 10th, 11th, 12th round. He lost all the major big fights. He lost to Bernard Hopkins. He lost to very badly by a kidney shot, liver shot. He lost to Sugar Shane Mosley twice, even though I just said could have gone either way. I thought that was a great robbery. Um, who else? He lost to Pacquiao. He lost to Floyd Mayweather. I mean, when it came to the big of big fights, he lost to Trinidad, which was a bona fide robbery, in my opinion. I have to put him at A tier because the big five. I mean, yes, was he a phenomenal draw for boxing? In a same strange way, did he save boxing? Yes. When Tyson was in jail, it was him and Roy Jones Jr. and the phenomenal heavyweight class that was saving the division. I'm going De La Hoya A tier. Now, Pernell Whitaker. What do I do with Pernell Whitaker? In my opinion, is second to none with Floyd Mayweather when it comes to defense. But I'm going to go with a solid A minus for Pernell Sweet Pea Whitaker. Mhm. Look, he was a four weight world champion. He won titles at the lightweight, light welterweight, light middleweight. He was undisputed as a lightweight title. I know this is a welterweight, but this is a guy that he in an era where people were wondering who's going to be the next Sugar Ray Leonard. You know, there was talks of Terry Norris. I even thought of putting Terry Norris in this list here, but with 40 wins and 4 losses, he was robbed twice, infamously by De La Hoya. Phenomenal amateur boxing career, but his defense was second to none. He brought the bravado to his showmanship in the ring. Now, Muhammad Ali was, of course, known for, talking trash, all that stuff. Sugar Ray Leonard wowed you with his ballet feet in the ring, with his endless endurance, which we'll talk about in a minute. But what Pernell Whitaker did on the defensive side, he was just braggadocious about it. I actually think, in my opinion, that's what lost him the fight to De La Hoya. Him running around the ring, not being taking the fight seriously, thinking he was winning rounds by showing off his defense when it was not even necessary, by being more of a showmanship, waving to the crowd and everything. I think that's what actually hurt him. I think if he would have taken a little bit more seriously, like the way he fought Chavez, I think he would have pulled out the victory against De La Hoya. I just think, look, he was an all-time great. I think, if I'm not mistaken, when Ring Magazine did the top 100 boxers of all time, I think he was number 10. So for me, I'm gonna stick with Pernell Whitaker as A minus. Tell me I'm crazy on the list. Now, next is Tito Trinidad, and I'm gonna put Tito at a B minus, and here is why. Here, I'm trying to fix this real quickly. Um, Puerto Rican legend. We did an episode on the greatest Puerto Ricans of all boxers of all time. I had him number 3, and I know he's a cultural icon in that little small island, pound for pound, probably the greatest boxers per capita in boxing history, no doubt about it. But look, he was a little frustrating in his career. I wanted a little bit more. Okay, I'll give him the win with De La Hoya. Fine. But that's really his only notable. Fernando Vargas, which nobody on the Mexican side, we didn't really believe in him. We wanted him to beat De La Hoya. De La Hoya destroyed him. Trinidad beat the hell out of him. There was his clashes with William Joppy at middleweight. I mean, and then he would start to retire, come back, retire. I mean, it was just a little frustrating. He did defeat Mayorga very convincingly, of course, but he would lose to Roy Jones Jr. He would lose to Winky Wright when Ricky Wright was chopping heads at the middleweight division. I mean, is he one of the all-time great Puerto Rican fighters with Laporte and Vasquez and Benitez and Gomez? Of course, no doubt about it. But I think he kind of reminded me a little bit of a not as good of a version, but like Terence Crawford, where they just don't fight. He was one of these great legends when boxers back then were fighting 3+ times a year. He was taking time off, like a lot of time off, and I think that hurt him. So I'm gonna have to put Trinidad at B minus tier, because at the end of the day, I mean, he was an attraction. He was a draw. I think it was a bigger attraction than Errol Spence. I think it was a bigger attraction than Trigger Shane Mosley. So I'm putting Trinidad at B minus. Let me know what you guys think on the comments section. Now, staying on the little island, the little mighty island, Miguel Cotto. Now, like I said about Sugar Shane Mosley, Miguel Cotto, in my opinion, was I'm putting him B tier. That might be a little too high. I get it. I understand. And here's why. Miguel Cotto, in my opinion, like I said about Sugar Shane Mosley, but actually more definitive. I thought he was going to go undefeated his entire career. I'll be honest with you. I really thought he was going to go undefeated his entire career because look, he would win four. I think it was four. He would win titles in four or five. I think it was four different weight classes, from lightweight all the way to middleweight. But he just had this great fundamental approach. His jab was stiff. I did it on that episode where I did the perfect building the perfect boxer. His body was resembling. I considered his body for being best body. Of course, I chose Anthony Joshua, but that's a conversation for another day. Look, he, when he was the welterweight champ, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I think he defended it four times, and then he would eventually lose to Margarito. Look, and we did an episode, we did a what if episode on what if Margarito didn't load his gloves against Cotto, because Cotto was on his way. I mean, he was already building up to be an all-time legend, but I didn't think he was going to be beatable. I think the only way he would lose was to get aged out, which after he fought Margarito, he just seemed to age overnight. After that fight, he was never really the same. After that fight with Margarito, whether you believe he was loaded or not, he would puff up so fast. And I'm glad he got his revenge against Margarito. That set things straight. But look, the way Manny Pacquiao dismantled him, the way Canelo dismantled him, uh, after that Margarito fight, I just think that if that fight never would have happened, I think Pacquiao and that Cotto fight would have been a lot better. I actually think with my old partner that he gave Floyd Mayweather, when he was money, the best fight he ever had. He blistered up Floyd Mayweather. I never seen Floyd Mayweather that bruised up before, bleeding from the nose, bleeding from the lip. Cotto gave him his best fight. Imagine if Margarito did not break him down. What kind of career would he have finished? I kind of thinking about putting him A minus, but I'm gonna leave him at B. Okay, now we're going to the 80s, and I am going Sugar Ray Leonard. Sorry, and I'm gonna go S tier. I have to, right? We have to, right? Look, Sugar Ray Leonard. I mean, when you talk about Sugar Ray Leonard, I mean that name is synonymous with greatness. I mean, he people were wondering after Muhammad Ali who was going to take the throne. Little did we know it was a lightweight, welterweight, a middleweight uh, boxer that would take the baton from Muhammad Ali when in the 1980s, when the heavyweight division was all-time garbage. They only had one boogeyman in Mike Tyson. He took the baton, he took on all challengers, and he put up a phenomenal career of 36 wins and 3 losses and a draw. Look, his showmanship in the ring with those butterfly feet in that ring was to say similar to, by the way, if there's any knock on him, was his retirements as well. Uh, that bothered me as well. But for him to retire, and if I'm not mistaken, took 2.5, 3 years off of retirement to go into the booth and then fight Hagler at his division and win convincingly. Once again, I know we have over 80 something episodes. We did that. We scored that fight, and I had Sugar Ray Leonard winning that fight. What Sugar Ray Leonard did to come out of retirement in that fight and defeat Hagler, who is Some people would say I'm Mount Rushmore of greatest boxers of all time, greatest chins of all time. He was a stoic figure, rest in peace, marvelous. But Sugar Ray Leonard took it to him. He would beat the hell out of Hearns, and Hearns would get him back. But this guy fought every single person that was there. Duran, he loses to Duran, comes back, challenges him. I mean, some people would say that was a little controversial, his rematch, making him lose like what, 60 pounds, if I'm not mistaken, in a few months. I mean, and besides that, look, he was an Olympic gold medalist. This guy, he was a trailblazer in boxing. I have to go S tier. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. All right. Now we're going to my favorite portion, Tommy the Hitman Hearns. I'm currently writing a book about the greatest knockouts of the 21st century, or the hardest knockouts of the 21st century. And my opening chapter, I'm talking about how the first time I saw Tommy Hitman Hearns fight against Marvelous Marvin Hagler as a kid, and that fight changed my life. To this day, Hitman Hearns is my favorite boxer ever. His unbelievable reach. I put him as the greatest jab of all time. Uh, I mean, for me, I want to put him S tier, but I got to be objective. And I'm going to go B. Look, let's just be honest here. Thomas the Hitman Hearns, he had a little bit of a glass jaw. He really, really did. I mean, look, does he have the accolades? Of course, Motor City Cobra, right? I mean, Fighter of the Year in Ring Magazine, Boxers Writing Association of America in 80 and 84. I mean, his hellacious knockout against Roberto Duran, one of my all-time favorites as well, is iconic. I mean, he was a devastating knockout puncher by a million. And then look, he had a 40, and then look, he had 61 wins, 5 losses, and a draw. You look, he won 6 major world titles in 5 different weight classes in his pro career. This is a guy that would start off at the lightweight division and go all the way to cruiserweight, fighting into the 90s. He challenged everybody. He challenged everyone. This is a guy, one of the most iconic first rounds in human history, in boxing history, when he fought Hagler. I mean, this guy, he left his mark in boxing. And I, just because of the glass chin, I have to commit. And I'm gonna keep him at a B. Do I want to get him higher? Absolutely, but I gotta separate my emotions from reality on this one, and I'm going Tommy the Hitman Hearns as a B. I know the comments are gonna light me up on that one. Tell me what you guys think. Does he deserve to be higher? I know he's a legend among legends, but oh man, I have to leave him at a B tier. Oh, I'm thinking A minus, but I'm gonna leave him there. Now look, people are wondering, why do you have Pipino Cuevas on here? And that's more of a personal favorite. I grew up, my dad loved him. If you're in a Mexican household, people talked about Pipino Cuevas. I still go to barbecues today, or asadas today, and people talk about the greatness of Pipino Cuevas. Of course, he will get knocked into the middle next week. All-time great knockout by Tommy the Hitman Hearns again. But throughout his career, I'm going to go ahead and go C minus for him. Look, he had 15 losses on his career. I mean, this is more of a uh, personal pick for me. I heard all the legends of him as a boxer. I never really watched him fight. I've seen many fights of him. I never saw him fight live, of course, but him I'll put it to you this way. He is a legend in the Mexican community, Mexican American community. Um, he's just an all-time great. And I wanted to put him on this list. Does he deserve to be on this list? No, he doesn't. It's just more of a personal pick. But I have him at a C minus. Most of y'all probably have him at an F. He did lose 15 times, but honestly, he was probably one of the top welterweights in the division until he fought an up and coming hitman Hearns. And then when he got knocked out, it was one of those knockouts where he was never the same again. But let's go ahead and move on. Let's go to Wilfred Benitez. And for him, I'm going A minus all the way up here. It's a shame. I'm actually kind of embarrassed that he is not considered one of the four kings. The four kings being Sugar Ray, Hagler, Hitman, and Duran. If anything, Hagler should be left out. Uh, and Benitez should be put in because Hagler never moved down from 160. He never moved down from middleweight. Hitman Hearns, Sugar Ray Leonard, they all went up. Duran, they all went up to fight uh, Hagler. But Benitez, I mean, this is a guy. He was the youngest champion in boxing history at 17 years old. He even took his high school buddies to go watch the fight, um, and win the championship there. He's just an all-time great. He earned his first of three career world titles in separate weight divisions, and at the age of 17, look, one other thing that I cannot say enough about. He is up there with Pernell, Whitaker, and Floyd Mayweather, even Muhammad Ali to an extent, of the greatest defensive boxers of all time. This guy was just hard to hit. He would purposely go in the corners of the ring, and let the boxer try to hit him clean. And his head movement, his anticipation was second to none. His feet were gorgeous with an all time record of 53 wins, 8 losses, and 1 draw. He just came up in a time where there were just so many legends in that division, and he went blow to blow with every single one of them. I love um, Wilfredo Benitez as an A minus. Is that a little too high? You guys tell me. But I think he's so underrated. His defense is forgotten about. Um, just an iconic boxer from the little island of champions. So next, Duran, probably the most controversial figure on here, and I'm gonna make it more controversial, and I'm going S tier. Let me scroll it all the way up here. S tier. Now, I know what most of you guys are thinking. How can you have Duran over De La Hoya? Well, look, he fought in over 5 decades. Okay. He held world championships in 4 different weight classes, lightweight, all the way to middleweight. I mean, he was undisputed. He was lineal lightweight champion, lineal welterweight champion. He is I think, if I'm not mistaken, the second or third boxer to, like I said, to have competed over a 5 decade span. I mean, he was just a brawler, a thumper, hands of stone. Look, if Ring Magazine had him the fifth greatest boxer of all time. I mean, come on. Even if I'm not mistaken, I think Mayweather even had him on his Mount Rushmore or his top 5 of all time. Why? Because he brought the fight. He challenged everybody. He went all the way up to go fight Hagler in a memorable fight that went the distance. He beat the unbeatable at the time, Sugar Ray Leonard, who was so quick and fast that he brought him into his realm. He got into his head, into his head. Did he have the nomas? Supposedly that's a myth, but yes, he did quit in that fight. Only black guy. I mean, this is a boxer that fought everybody. Shot Sugar Ray Leonard. He fought Wilfred Benitez. I mean, he was so legendary. I cannot argue. I have to put him S tier. Look, I mean, this is a guy, he fought from super featherweight all the way to light heavyweight at 5'7". He fought in 119 fights with 103 wins, 16 losses. I mean, like I said, this is a time where losing your O was no big deal. Who cares? You just fought to fight. He brought every single fight he went into, whether he was going down, if I'm not mistaken, in the second round to Tommy Hitman Hearns with that hellacious knockout, or getting revenged by Sugar Ray Leonard. He fought the fight. He wasn't gonna prance around or anything like that. He wanted to fight the best, and he did it for so long that I have no choice but to put him S tier. Now, lastly, Sugar Ray Robinson. I mean, come on. That is S tier all day, all day long. That is S tier. Uh, if you ask 100 boxing journalists, aficionados, experts, whatever you want to know, he is the greatest. They would say, I would say 90% of them would say he is the greatest of all time. That fought in over 200 fights, 201 fights, 174 wins with 19 losses, six draws, and two no contests. This is a guy who fought Jake LaMotta when nobody wanted to fight Jake LaMotta. He was named the best boxer of all time, pound for pound, by the IBRO. Look, guys, as a welterweight champion, Sugar Ray Robinson, he fought in 75 fights with 73 1-1 and beaten every top contender in the welterweight division. Okay. He was one of those that actually stood up to the mafia when the mafia was corrupting boxing at the time. At the time, you got to realize boxing was the number one sport along with baseball at the time. Baseball was coming around. And this was a guy where he refused to work with them. He kept his dignity on there. I mean, to fight 171 times just goes to show you the all-time greatness that he was. I mean, he not only was he a dominant amateur, but look, supposedly his amateur record was 85-0 with 69 knockouts. So many people will talk about Lomachenko with his amateur knockout. He wishes he had the amateur career that he did. Now, when he turned pro, I mean, by the age of 19 and by 1951, he had a professional record of 129 wins, one loss, and two draws. And 85 of those were by knockouts. He went on a 91 fight unbeaten streak, the sixth longest in professional boxing history, behind Wild and Buck Smith, and there's somebody else. I'm McFarlane, if I'm not mistaken. I think there's another one or two. But look, Robinson held a welterweight title from 1946 to 1951 and won the world middleweight title. I know we're talking about welters. In the later part, he would also retire and come back a few years later and go back to middleweight and win the middleweight title as well. This is a guy who is on everybody's list as being the greatest ever. Bert Sugar had him number one. The Ring magazine had him the greatest as well. Box Ranks had him the greatest boxing pound for pound. This guy is S tier all day long. He belongs there. There's without a doubt. He is a trailblazer as a boxer. Muhammad Ali even said that he took a lot of his style as a smaller boxer into the heavyweight division. Look, Sugar Ray Robinson, it's embarrassing that we're forgetting who these old legends are, like Dempsey and Johnson and Henry Armstrong and um, Sugar Ray Robinson, of course, like I just said, we're forgetting who they are because they're getting aged out. They're getting timed out. And it's a shame. We got to remember these legends. We got to keep them in the lore of boxing. So I have Sugar Ray Robinson as my S tier. Guys, go ahead and leave me in the comments. What do you think of my list? How would you rearrange these guys? Okay. Tell me who I left off. By the way, the two ones that I left off were Henry Armstrong. And the only reason because he had more of a career as a lightweight than a welter. And also, of course, Julio Cesar Chavez is the other one. I mean, Chavez, he was always looking for the big fight. He went up in weight a couple of times, but I always looked at him like I looked at him as a lightweight, featherweight guy, in my opinion. He was more of that. I mean, he did fight at welter, but at welter he was not effective. He was not the same boxer anymore. De La Hoya destroyed him when he tried to go up to those divisions. His power was not there. His iron chin was done at that division. But those are the two main guys that are left off. We'll go ahead and leave it at this, guys. Go ahead, tell me what you think. Leave a message on the comments of my list. Do you agree with it? Do you disagree with it? And tell me who I left off. Maybe I should have brought in some more boxers. Of course, there's plenty more that I left off for sure. But go ahead, guys. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to stick and move, baby.
I am the greatest. I wish I was 50 years younger and I'd